Hey procrastinators, I hope that you are having a great Father's Day with your families. Today I am doing a collab with Renee over at Delaney Jane Cards. That's right, we're back doing our collabs. So today we are doing patterned paper. We had discussed doing patterned paper or scrap paper, and we chose patterned paper, but I decided to do a combination of both pattern paper and scraps because, well, let's face it, my scraps are getting quite out of hand. So I just showed you a pile of scraps that are actually scraps of papers that I have made. I mean, I didn't actually make the papers, but I made the patterns on the papers. As you guys know, that I like to make my own patterns on my papers, like make my own backgrounds and whatnot. So I went through my big, large plastic envelope of papers and backgrounds that I have made, and these are little scraps that I have cut off the backgrounds. They were actually already in these strips. These are ones that I didn't like put inside cards or do anything with, obviously. So they were actually already in these strip form. So I went through and I just separated out the color families. And I decided that I wanted blue, kind of like the magenta purpley color, and green. So I have these cardstock panels that I had already run through my Xyron. I have a large Xyron, and so when I run smaller things through it, I just take an A2 size panel and I run it through with the smaller things. That way I'm not wasting the adhesive. So sometimes I have these panels sitting around. Now I will caution you that when you do something like this, because I'm going to die cut with these, if you obviously saw the picture in the beginning, that you probably should do this with typing paper and not cardstock, because I did have a slight problem with one of my panels, but it's okay. It turned out fine in the end, but just going to caution you that it may not cut all the way through. So anyway, I'm just going to take these strips and I'm going to stick them into the adhesive because Xyron is a double-sided adhesive. So I've got adhesive on the cardstock panel, and then I'm just lining these strips up. And some of them I'm running all the way across. Some of them I'm not running all the way across. I'm just running part way through and then lining up another strip. Now all these strips are not exactly the same size because these are just strips that I've cut off my background panels. So if I don't run them all the way across, I'm trying to find another strip that matches up, that is the exact same size. If the strip was a 1/4 inch, then I need to try to find another one that's a 1/4 inch. Now of course I'm not measuring these. I'm just kind of eyeballing them and seeing if they match up. So just keep that in mind, that you need your strips to match up because you don't want to get your panel all wonky going across, or you don't want adhesive exposed. So obviously I didn't want to show you that whole thing because this is very repetitive, and I did the other two off screen. So here's what I have. This is the one that was kind of greens, yellows, blues. This is the one that was kind of like pinks, purples, magentas. There's some blue in there, you know. And then my one that I did on screen, or at least partially on screen, that's kind of blues, and it's got some purples in there. I just kind of did some colors that kind of matched anyway. So I'm going to cut that concave rectangle from Pink and Main out of that one. I had thought I was going to do the bigger one, but I decided to do a smaller one. So there's that. I've got the measurement up on the screen for you about what that measures out at. Then I've got these butterflies from Spellbinders. I'm going to say that it's called Les Papillons, but I have no idea. It's French. I don't really speak French. So I've got these two butterflies. I'm actually only going to use one. This is the one that did not cut well. It did not cut all the way through. You'll see here in a minute when I bring it back on screen after I cut it. And then I've got the Mosaic Vine die from Spellbinders. Now that one did cut all the way through. I only had to run that through my machine like 2, maybe 3 times, and it did cut all the way through. All of these were on, I want to say 80-pound Nina, that had the Xyron adhesive on it, and the other two cut through fine. It was this darn butterfly that did not want to cut all the way through. So as you can see, the outline of the butterfly cut, but the innards, the delicate pieces, intricate pieces in the middle did not cut all the way through. So that's what I had trouble with. I tried shimming it. I tried all kinds of things. It just did not want to cut those intricate pieces. So that is why I say that maybe you should do this on typing paper. And I kind of knew this when I started out, but you know, I wanted to use those panels that I already had the Xyron adhesive on it. I didn't want to make more. I didn't want to drag out the Xyron. So as you can see here, I am forming the butterfly wings. I want to give it a little bit of dimension. I don't want it to be flat. And this is when the pieces, some of the pieces started popping out, but not all of them. So then I'm like, now what am I gonna do? Like, not all these pieces are going to cut through, and I hate to grab an X-Acto knife and sit there and cut intricate swirly pieces out like that. It's just not something I'm going to do, because I'll probably cut my finger off or something. So this butterfly die set has the shadow and the piece with the intricate pieces cut out. So I just cut one in black because I thought that when I looked at the die, I thought that it had the antenna on the shadow piece. It did not. So I'd cut one out. So I just grabbed that piece. I wasn't going to use it in the beginning, but then when the pieces started falling out, I just grabbed that piece. I gave it a little bit of form, and then now I'm going to glue it onto the back of my butterfly and glue those pieces back in, because it was obvious that not all those pieces were going to fall out. So I'm just going to glue it on the back and then glue those pieces back in, and now I'm going to have a whole butterfly. It's going to have those little intricate markings cut so you can see the intricate pieces when my card is done, but they're just not going to actually be cut out of the butterfly, and it's fine. I wasn't going to let it bother me. I mean, it did a little bit, but it's not going to bother me too much. So I did have some scrap pieces left over, so I'm going to use this to cut my to stamp and cut my sentiment out. I'm using a happy birthday sentiment from the Altenew candlelight stamp set. I really like this scripty happy birthday. So I'm just going to stamp that in VersaFine, and then I'm going to clear heat emboss it just to kind of make it stand out a little bit more on that busy pattern. So I'm just stamping this twice to make sure that I have a really good impression across those little strips of paper. And like I said, I'm going to use some Ranger Clear embossing powder and heat emboss that, heat set it off screen. And then I've got a MFT stitched sentiment strip banner die here that I'm going to cut that out with. And again, this one cut just fine. It's just those little teeny tiny intricate pieces that did not want to cut on that one die, which, like I said, no biggie. All right, so I did cut another one of those concave rectangles for a mat behind my patterned paper strip piece, whatever you want to call that. And I'm going to glue that on there before I glue it on my A2 card base. I'm just going to glue everything flat down, or at least most everything flat down. Glue that onto my card base, and then I'm going to layer my little pieces on there. I thought that this card turned out really interesting. It's definitely different than what I normally would do. I like bright colors, but I don't normally use so many colors in my cards. So I thought that this turned out really kind of cool. I don't know, it kind of reminds me of a quilt, like one of those quilts that you use a bunch of scraps on. I don't remember what they call them right now, but but there is a certain name for it, and that's kind of what it reminds me of. I thought that the pieces turned out really interesting. This vine piece turned out really cool. I think it all turned out really cool, actually. You'll have to let me know what you think. I think it's an interesting way to use your scraps. I've done several strip type cards with my scraps before that actually do look like quilts, where you make little patterns with your scraps on the actual card panel. But I've never actually die cut into my strip pieces before. So I thought that this was definitely an interesting way to use my scraps and my pattern papers. It could actually be used with regular pattern papers too. If you don't like making your own backgrounds, I think that it would be interesting to pair up different pattern papers that have been printed and do the same thing. So now I'm just going to pop up my, after I glue down my butterfly, I'm going to pop up my sentiment. And of course I get it on there crooked, but well, it just adds a little character, I guess, because I pushed the foam tape down on there too hard, and of course it stuck really good, so I wasn't able to pull it up. But it just adds more character, you know. It's handmade, it's not Hallmark, so it is what it is. But you'll have to let me know what you think of this card and this technique, and whether you are going to try it. So this pretty much finishes up for my card for today. If you have not participated in one of the collabs with me and Renee before, the link to her video will be down in the description box below. She will be showing you a technique with patterned paper as well, so you'll need to go check out what she is showing you today. The way we do this is that neither one of us have seen the cards or know what each other is creating before this airs. So I have no idea what she has made or what technique she is showing today. And she has no idea what I have made or what technique I am showing. It is a complete surprise, which is kind of different for us because we often share what our cards look like, bounce ideas off each other, and that kind of stuff. So, as always, I hope that you enjoyed the card today and have a great day.